What if I told you that the scariest thing about evil is how easy it is to slip into? Not all at once, not in some dramatic moment where you choose to become a villain, but slowly, so slowly you don't even realize it's happening. Most of us like to believe that we're good people, that we have strong morals, that we would never betray, deceive, or harm someone the way we've seen others do. But then, one day, we cross a line. Maybe it starts with a small lie, maybe with a tiny justification. Maybe we just look the other way when we should speak up. It doesn't feel like a big deal at the time, but step by step, moment by moment, something changes. And the terrifying part? Most people don't notice until it's too late. We think of evil as something obvious, something we could easily spot and avoid. But the truth is, the people who fall into it never think they will. They don't wake up one day and decide to be bad. They just make one small exception, and then another and another. So, how does it happen? Why do good people, people who love, who care, who truly believe they're doing the right thing, end up walking a path they once swore they never would? That's what we're here to explore. The hidden forces that shape our choices, the psychological traps that make us rewrite reality, and the uncomfortable truth that most people refuse to admit, that under the right circumstances, anyone can become the villain. It always starts with something small, a little lie, a little excuse, a moment where someone does something they swore they never would, but tells themselves it's fine, that it doesn't count, that they had no choice. This is how it happens, not through some grand decision to turn evil, but through a slow unraveling of the mind. The first force at play is self-justification. The human brain hates contradiction. When our actions don't match our beliefs, we experience cognitive dissonance, an uncomfortable feeling that makes us change something to make it go away. But instead of admitting we're doing something wrong, our mind finds a shortcut. It rewrites the story. I didn't lie, I just didn't tell the whole truth. I didn't betray anyone. I did what I had to do. I'm not the bad guy here. I'm just misunderstood. And with each rewrite, the real truth gets harder to see. Then, there's the power of the crowd. Most of us like to believe we think for ourselves, that we wouldn't just follow the group, but studies and history say otherwise. When we see others justifying bad behavior, it becomes easier for us to do the same. When people in power tell us something is necessary, we listen, even when it goes against our values. And when everyone around us is silent, we convince ourselves that speaking up isn't our responsibility. This is why entire societies have justified horrific things. Not because people were evil, but because they stopped questioning their own choices. And then, there's the shadow self. Carl Jung believed that every person carries a hidden side. The part of us that wants things we deny, feels things we suppress, and is capable of actions we don't want to admit. Most people bury their shadow, pretending it doesn't exist. But that doesn't make it go away. Instead, it lurks beneath the surface, shaping decisions in ways we don't even realize. And under the right pressure, in the right moment, it steps forward. By then, it's too late to stop. And the scariest part? Most people never even realize they've changed. Most people believe that if they ever started to change, if they ever started to cross a line, they would notice. They think they would feel it happening, that there would be a moment where an alarm goes off in their mind, warning them that they're making a mistake. But the truth? That moment never comes. The biggest illusion about morality, the thing that keeps so many people blind, is that we assume that evil feels evil, that when someone does something terrible, they must feel guilt, regret, or even some kind of twisted satisfaction. But in reality, when good people do bad things, it still feels right, because the human mind is a master at protecting itself. When we make a choice that doesn't align with who we believe we are, our brain doesn't question the action. It changes the belief. Instead of thinking, I just did something wrong, we think, maybe this isn't as bad as I thought. Instead of thinking, I'm crossing a line, we think, this is just how the world works. Instead of thinking, I've changed, we think, I've just adapted. And so, The descent continues. One of the scariest examples of this comes from history. There have been countless times when ordinary people, teachers, doctors, neighbors, became part of horrific acts, not because they were cruel, but because each step felt justifiable. They weren't choosing evil. They were doing what was necessary. They weren't betraying their values. They were just following orders. And if you think that's just history, think again. Every day, people convince themselves to do things they once thought they'd never do. Maybe not on the scale of history books, but in smaller, personal ways. A boss justifies exploiting employees because that's business. A friend betrays someone but convinces themselves that they had no choice. A person loses themselves in lies, but genuinely believes they're still honest. And the scariest part, if you ask yourself, have you changed? Are you doing something you once condemned? The answer would probably be no. Because once the mind has rewritten the story, there's nothing left to question. Most people don't see it happening. They don't wake up one morning and suddenly decide to betray their values. They don't look in the mirror and recognize the villain staring back at them. Instead, they convince themselves that they're still the same person they've always been, that their choices are just a necessary adjustment to reality. Because here's the truth. Your mind will always protect your version of yourself, even when it means lying to you. If you see yourself as honest, but you tell a lie, your brain won't let you sit with the contradiction. Instead, it will change the story. It wasn't really a lie. It was just bending the truth. If you see yourself as kind, but you hurt someone, your mind won't accept that either. They deserved it. I had no other choice. And if you see yourself as a good person, but your actions start to say otherwise, your brain will find a way to make you the hero in every version of the story. This is why people don't notice their own descent. Because every step along the way, their mind is making it feel like the right thing to do, but there's something even darker lurking underneath. The moment we justify something once, we open the door to doing it again. A person who tells themselves that one lie doesn't count is far more likely to lie again. Someone who convinces themselves that one betrayal was necessary will justify the next one even faster. And little by little, the gap between who they think they are and who they become widens, until one day there's nothing left to recognize. But what makes this so dangerous isn't just that it happens. It's that no one ever thinks it will happen to them. We tell ourselves that we're different, that we would see the warning signs, that we would never let it happen. But that's what everyone thinks. And by the time they realize they were wrong, they've already become someone they swore they'd never be. Some people never see it. They wake up every day, look in the mirror, and believe they are still the same person they were years ago, despite all the choices, the justifications, and the slow shift in their morals. Others have a moment of realization, a moment where everything snaps into focus, and they see themselves clearly for the first time. And when that happens, it's terrifying. A father who always saw himself as kind realizes that his words have chipped away at his child's confidence, turning him into the very kind of parent he swore he'd never be. A woman who believed in loyalty looks back and sees all the people she's betrayed, all the friendships she's let rot, and realizes she's become the person she used to warn others about. A leader who once had pure intentions finally understands that somewhere along the way, his vision became more important than the people he once swore to protect. It happens in politics, in business, in relationships. A man starts a company wanting to make a difference, but small compromises turn into big ones, and before long, the money matters more than the mission. A woman falls in love, but over time, she lets fear guide her actions. She tells small lies to keep her partner close. She becomes manipulative, but she doesn't see it that way. She just thinks she's protecting what they have. A police officer starts his career to uphold justice, but years of seeing criminals escape punishment change him. He starts bending the rules, taking shortcuts, believing that the system is broken and only he can fix it. This is how it happens, not with a single, obvious choice, but with 1,000 small ones, each one making the next one easier. And the longer it goes on, the harder it is to turn back. Because once you cross the line, once you build a life where your justifications are the foundation, admitting the truth means destroying everything. And most people would rather live in the illusion than face what they become. Imagine looking back at your life and realizing you've become someone you don't recognize. That moment of realization is rare, but when it happens, it hits like a tidal wave. Some people break under it, others bury it, doubling down on their justifications, desperate to hold on to the illusion. But a few, just a few, wake up. They see the small choices that led them here. They see the excuses, the justifications, the moments they ignored their own conscience. And in that moment, they face the hardest question of all. Is it too late to change? Some people will say yes, that once you cross the line, you can never go back. But that's just another lie, another way the mind tricks itself into staying in the dark. Because the truth is, the moment you see yourself clearly, you have a choice. You can keep pretending, keep convincing yourself that everything you've done was justified, keep walking further into the illusion, or you can stop. You can pull yourself out piece by piece, decision by decision. It won't be easy. It will be painful, because real self-awareness, it shatters everything you thought you knew about yourself. But if you can face that, if you can sit with the discomfort, the regret, the realization that you were not as good, as right, as immune as you thought, then you can start again, because no one is doomed to the choices they've made, only to the ones they refuse to change. And now, now, the illusion is broken, and the only question left is, what will you do with that knowledge?